Guten Morgen, Guten Erev Shabbos, Parshas Para, Parshas Taira, Colossian Hamavura, and we're at the end of learning Rambam Hilchis Tairis, so it's matim to, I think this is the last share of this series of this Machzer in Tairis that I'll be giving, because the next one is going to already move on to the Zikin. So I would like to, first of all, thank all the organizers of this share for the unbelievable thing that they're doing. Side to those who want to learn a little Biyun, side to, I'm sure, the Magidei Shirim who have to learn Biyun, and especially having learned areas in Shas and Rambam, the Iyun, that is not been something that we do in the yeshiva system, not only in our yeshiva system, but probably in any yeshiva system pretty much. So, Yashikayach. We will be addressing the Rambam in Hilchis Mikvaos in Perek Dalet and one Rambam in Perek Hey. Bear with me as we go through the three Rambams, because as we always, it's important to see how the Rambam presents halachas, because especially in these halachas, the wording of the Rambam is very, very important. The Rambam Hilchis Mikvaos Perek Dalet Halacha Aleph writes, Din Torah shekol mayim chunosim tevim b'hem. Famous shittas Rambam, as we will see soon as he finishes up the halacha, all waters that are gathered, you can table. Shenama mikre mayim, finished by yandik. Mikol mak. So basically what he's alluding to is his famous psak that's known throughout everywhere, that you can be table in Mayim Sheuvin, Minat Torah. So if I were writing the Rambam, which thank God I'm not, I would add the following words right here. Bein Sheuvin, Bein Sheina Sheuvin. No, the Rambam decides not to do that. Instead, he takes you first for a little informational sidetrack, which seems, and then comes back. Ooh, however, this Mayim Chunosim, Shir Behen Kedei Lahalois Behen Kedei Tvila. He has the Lahalois Behen Kedei Tvila. Now, I want to, stress that the word Lahalois is not the usual word here. It should have been Hu Shir Behen Kedei Litvil. Kedei Tvila. Finish. You can skip straight. Hu Shir Behen Kedei Tvila Chol Guf Adam Basachat. That a person should be able to go in totally in one time. And as Rabbi Silverstein spoke about yesterday, about the Indian of Kol Gufei Basachas, which is really the Indian of Chatzitza. I mean, this is not this is, they're just talking about the word Lahales. Now, but at the same time, the Rambam is using the Lashon Gemara, which we always speak about, that the Rambam's minig and custom, not custom, but his derech is to stick to Lashon Gemara. And the Gemara uses that Lashon. It says, Mayim shekol gufei oilo behem. It's Gemara in Erevin and in other places. So it's understood why I use the Lashon Lahalois, but it seems like totally superfluous here. It's extra. And again, it's not, it doesn't tell us really in our language. It's a little hard to understand. Now, Shi'aru Chachomim, Amal, Amabrum, Ama, Shalosh Amis, Shir Zeh, Magzik, Mem, Sa, Mayim. Okay, now, really, this is a discussion for itself. What is the Rambam Shita L'Gabe Mem Sa? Is a big deal in Peskim. Again, the prevailing opinion is that the Rambam holds that Mem Sa is Daraisa, but there are many who argue, and the Chosher Peskim and amongst the big Chuvas, a lot of discussion. Somebody wants to look up. There's a Darkei Tshuva that quotes almost every person that talks about it, and it's a big sugi. Finally, the end of the halacha: Ben Sheuvin, Ben Sheina Sheuvin. It seems like these there's a concept of Amin Yisema where you just answer amen. It doesn't have anything to go with. Like these words, Mayim Sheuvin, Mayim Sheuvin is like out of nowhere. It should have been in the beginning. Here, it doesn't make any sense. We're talking about as long as, but I guess the flow, if you read it all in one quick shot, and you learn the Rambam the way some people read it, as just reading quickly, it fits. But if you read it as the intent of the Rambam to understand what he's saying, it like seems out of place. Malach Beis continues. Now, finally, according to this, we're in great shape. Jump into a swimming pool, you can be table. Go into a big bathtub that has 40 saw. Malach Beis, not so much. Divrei Seifrim, Shahamayim Sheuvin Psulim L'Tfila. Mayim Sheuvin is possible to now, immediately after. El mikve Mayim she'enan shu. If you have a mikve, that's not shu. Shall not for the teichen shloishes lugem Mayim Sheuvin paslu hakel. Okay, so now I want to make note of that. Why is shloisha lugem Mayim paslu? 3 lugin into a mikveh that doesn't have 40 saw yet. That's what I'm talking about. And why does it make it possible? Even if later I add good water, it doesn't matter. So it's exera. That's what the Rishonim say. In fact, the Rishonim ask, why are you making exera l'exera? The whole Mayim Sheuvin is exera, according to the Rambam. It's the Rabbanan. So why are we making another Rabbanan? The Aseret. So they say, because it's a different Gzeira. This is a Gzeira that you're going to come to be table in a Kli. The Rash, Mikvaos, says that that's the whole reason why Mayim Sheuvin B'chlal they asked it. Is because he shouldn't table in a Kli, which we'll talk about soon what the Isser of that is. So, it sounds strange. Rambam says, this is a separate Gzeira. This is a different Gzeira. Why? Let's first finish this new Gzeira that you just hit us with a Gzeira. And now you're coming with a side Gzeira. There's a discussion about these halachas later. It's not like he doesn't discuss Gimelug. There's a very distinct discussion, matter of fact, in Perek Hey, about it. So what's it doing here? Okay. Next. Now, right away, again, as we know, Rambam does not usually bring the Makairis. If he does, we need to understand why. But here, specifically, he just got through saying it's Midivrei Seif, but he qualifies that. Afal pisha pisu Mayim Sheuvin Midivrei Seifrim lamdu behekish. They learned it with a hekish. And he goes on to explain the hekish. Sharei u'ayima'ach mayon u'boir mikvei mayim yeto'ar. So he says, like, since it says boir mikvei mayim, we know he already said that it means a gathering of water. And he puts it together with a mayon. So boir mikvei mayim and a mayon are in one pasuk. So we learn how just like a mayon is untouched by human hands. Ain't he says yad adam klal. And the other hand, a boir is kule biyad adam. A man digs it, makes it, lets the water in. Shei kule Mayim Sheuvin. Amr chachamim. The chacham said, "A mikveh lo yiyeh kule shov keboir." It shouldn't be like a boir. And tzarich is kule b'dei shemayim kemayim. In other words, we're making a compromise. Looking at these two things, we're creating a compromise. As long as he could be touched by human hands, but not totally human. It's got to be a combination. So just to note that there's a big to do about this Lashon Rambam, Lamdu Behekish. It's a strange Lashon. I would venture to say, having done some research, that Lashon does not exist on a Drabanan in Rambam. So, and again, I would like to say that, even though it's hard to say that, and the Kleismer Rebbe is Chuvas, Divrei Yatziv. He wants to say, and he says, Lule the Mistafin, I would say that that this is really the Rambam's Yidu the Keshipta that what you learn from Yud Gimel Midah is called the Sefer, but it's really the Reis. And he writes it's like a big Kiddush, but honestly, in the reading, it makes sense. But it is a big Kiddush because that's not the conventional wisdom, not what's accepted by all. Okay, I want one more little point over here. Let's take a look at one more Rambam in the next Perek Hey Halacha, where he does discuss Mayim Gimel Lugim. And he gives two cases, and I don't want to get into the details. I just want to get into his expressions there. And it comes from a Mishnah in Mikvaos. Two Mikvaos, ein b'chalechet mememsa. V'nafel lezel lug u'machze, v'lezel lug u'machze. So neither of them became possible. V'nes'ar v'beis ha-Mikvaos. And now they mixed up. So again, we took now they have three lugin, but it wasn't in nafel lug basachas. Harei l'ksherim. Now here he writes why, and this is exactly the Lashon Mishnah. Nikra al echad mehem shemsu, because it hasn't gotten a shemsu. Now here is where the Rambam deviates from his usual and becomes very, very expressive. Ava mikra she'ein by mem sar shenafel l'teichi shleish lugim mayim su. In reverse, all the three lugim fell in at once. But then, now we divided the mikvah. And so theoretically, in our, I don't know, the Breira mode or whatever you want to use, there could be only 1.5 in each. And now you put in Mayim Sheuvin, Mayim Sheuvin on each one. So if I were writing the Rambam and the Mishnah, his Lashon is Mitnei, Nikra alav shemsul. No, the Rambam doesn't say that. Shekol la mikveh kulei shenifsal kemayim sheuvin uchashu v'ki'ilu kol meimav nishavu b'kli. Why? And good, it's a beautiful explanation. The mikveh is considered Mayim Sheuvin. Every ounce of it is considered Mayim Sheuvin, and therefore kol meimav nishavu b'kli. It's as if the whole thing was now Mayim Sheuvin. But again, it's okay. But why? He could have stuck to the Lashon HaGemara, Lashon Mishnah, which is Shenikra Leim Shemsul, and it makes sense because it would have been the contrast to the Reisha. Okay, now the Rambam didn't make up this limud. It's a Teres Kaina in Pasha Shmini, and I'm not going to read it because it's pretty similar to the Rambam with various differences, but the Teres Kaina adds another halach from this Yalfusa. It says, what about Bayer? You say Bayer is good. What about a Bayer? You know, you have a big ship, and I don't know why the ship specifically, but he means a Bayer that's not in the karka. You know, a big item, you build a Bayer in it. It's not in the karka. So we learn out, no, it's possible. Ma mayon she'ikre bekarka, mikveh she'ikre bekarka. Oh. So you learn out that you need ikre bekarka. You need a barish in the karka. So the Aruch HaShulchan asks, he says, a mikveh in a kli l'cheir, the Rambam holds as possible ice. That's not mechubel karka. So if it's not mechubel karka, it's possible ice. So where did the Rambam decide which part of this Yalfusa is the Raisa, which part of it is the Rabbanan? Why it's one Raisa in Teres Kainim. So the Rambam stops at the end, doesn't bring that. That's the Rabbanan. That's the Raisa, what he doesn't bring. He brings only the Rabbanan part. But why? Again, with the Kleism we have his word, it's good. But again, that's not, he himself says it's a Chiddush Pella. It's a Chiddush Godel to say that. Anyway, so those are the problems. I would like, in order to to explain this, I would like to perhaps go through the possible solutions to this. Perhaps, so again, just so that we have clarity and where we're at. We have a psul of Mayim Sheuvin, which, according to some, as I said, the Rash holds that psul is Gzeira of doing of tabling in a keli. I didn't see that other places. It's a psul, Rabbanan. Gimel Lugin, Taisis, the Rosh, all say is because of Gzeira Shem Yitul B'Kli. Perhaps that the Rambam has a different approach to this. The Rambam learns that this, and going back to the question that we have from the Aruch HaShulchan, and that is, this hekish has two parts to it. There's a hekish on the mokim hamayim, where the mayim needs to be. We have a hekish on the mahus hamayim, on what kind of water. Perhaps the Rambam holds that where the water has to be, that's what this hekish is. Boyer and Mayan are places, and that's the Raisa. That's the Raisa. The mahus of the Mayim, what kind of water? Sheuvin, not Sheuvin. Bereish Hagag, Kalim Bereish Hagag. That's only asmach. That's the Rambam's definition. There is a deraisa part which is about the mouse. Now it's interesting in that same Yalfusim Hekish, the Gemara wants to say the Brisa wants to say maybe just like Mayon is Bekol Shehu, that a Mayon you don't need a Memsa. As long as you can get in there, it's okay. You have a very short person, skinny short person who's my Gufay Eila in 20 saw and 2 saw. It would be it's also good. Doesn't matter. He's Yaitza, Tvila. And so therefore Mikvaos should also be like that. So the Gemara learns out not like that. So that's also not in the Mahus Hamayim. It's in the Shir Hamayim. It's all about the position, the arum from the Wasser. It's all how the tziyur should be. But the water itself is not part of that. But are descriptions, according to the way the Rambam understands this limud, descriptions in the position of the water, where it is, the mayin is here, where it is here, but not about the mahus of the mayin. So came along the Chacham and said, no, we're going to learn an asmachta from him. Just to note, for clarity purposes, there's the famous Maharal, the Er HaGeila, if anybody takes the time to learn it, that discusses the inyan of asmachta, what it means. And it's clear, the Maharal says that asmachta is not a memory, I forgot what it's called, a mnemonic, where you look for a source so you should remember halacha or some other source. He says asmachta is real. It's a real Rabbanan process of halacha, and it gives it a teikif, creates a different level. Go through the Ber HaGeila is very, very, very important, I think, for people to learn that piece. But the vart is, it's an asmach. The asmach is a limud with Rabbanan. There's Yud Gimel Midas Shateir in the Dreshes, and then there is with Rabbanan in the Dreshes. Rabbanan learn out. Rabbanan based their din of Mayim Sheuvin from this asmach. So why does the Rambam learn like that? Why did he separate that? What caused him to say that the Mahus Hamayim is not Negeya and the other thing is Negeya? So I think that lies in the structure of this halacha. The structure of the halacha, the Rambam says that as long as the Mayim is, he says like this, Din Torah shekol Mayim v'chunosim tevlim behem, as it says Mikveh Mayim, Ehu sheyiyah ben kedei lahalas ben kedei tefillah l'chol gufa adam masachas is not just qualifying the halacha. It's much greater than that. Because qualifying halacha doesn't belong here. It belongs in Allah in Perek Aleph. It belongs in the basics of Hilchis Hilchis Mikvaos. What it's doing here is it's telling us why the Rambam is explaining. Because what's Tvila all about? Mayim shekol gufei eilubem. The rochatz as besara b'mayim. That's the Lashon HaGemara. The rochatz are mayim shekol gufei eilubem. That's it. So in the mayim, it makes no difference. The pasuk is telling us that's what I need. I want mayim that's called gufei eilubem. He learns that the husa mayim. The pasuk already tells us. As long as it's mayim shekol gufei eilubem, it's good. Oh, in the place of the water, in the arum from the vasa, that the Torah tells you conditions. But in the etzamayim, it says clearly, as long as mayim shkol, that's why the Rambam stresses states halacha up like this. And right away tells us the din of mem saw here, and ends up bein shuvim bein shein shuvim, because that's why shuvim is also good. It's amazing. I think it fits beautifully in the Lashon HaRama, even though those words seem like Anam and Yisayim, as we said. But that's because he needs to say that in order to explain why Mayim Sheuvin is good. In order to explain the next halacha, he's like a hekish and he says it's Rabbanan. Doesn't make sense. So there it is because of this pasuk, because it's you need Mayim Shekol Gufay. That's what Mayim Shekol Gufay, as long as he goes in. Okay. So the Rambam doesn't hold necessarily that Gimel Lugin Mayim Sheuvin is because Shema Yitzvil Bekeli, like the other Rishayim say. The Rambam holds that Gimel Lugin Mayim Sheuvin is part of this Hekish. That when they said that Mayim Sheuvin is possible, they also said that Gimel Lugin Mayim Sheuvin makes everything else Mayim Sheuvin. And that's why in Perek Hey, he uses this out of usual lengthy description of why it's possible. Because there, why Mayim Sheuvin, he says that the shekol amikve kulay shenifsal kemayim shuvim uchashiv v'kilu kol meim adishu b'kelim. That's it. It's the same thing. But that's part of the gezeira was from the limud was that hayes that and the first say that why gimel lugim because that's a double chashiv. So it's the mikveh itself is Mayim Sheuvin, or a davar chashiv of the mikveh is Mayim Sheuvin. It is possible mitzad this rabbanan de kasmachta that it's a mitzias of Mayim Sheuvin, and that's why it doesn't just say shanikra shem psulala. Here is where he's describing. It explains the v'loi oid. Not only did we learn out the din of Mayim Sheuvin, we also learned out this new that Gimel Lugin is makes Mayim Sheuvin. And it makes it in the Rabban Kasmachta the Chashivus turns it into Mayim Sheuvin already. And the whole Issa is Mayim Sheuvin. But it's an Asmachta, it's not a Gzeira. That's why the Rambam doesn't use the Lashon Gzeira, it's Psul, with the Rabbanan. And that's why it sounds the Lashon, the Raisa, the Lashon, even though he doesn't mean the Raisa, but he's trying to say it's not a usual. It's Lomdu Mehekish. It's the Lashon, Afal Pish, the Resefer, Lomdu Mehekish. It's the Resefer, but it's more than that. It's got a source in a Smach, in a Draban, but it's a Hekish Dik in the Smach. So that would fit very, very, very well in this whole. And how does it come about? By making this compromise from the word Bayer and Mayim, we create this compromise of what kind of mahus of Mayim we need, and that's the halach of that. And that's the same thing of Gimel. Perhaps this fits in beautifully into the Hasidic understanding, which is based on the Rama, which the Rebbe quotes many, many times, and specifically I can note in Teres Menachem, Chelik Yutes, in a Purim Sicha, which we're just coming off, still probably to some degree, hopefully under the influence of Purim. The Rebbe talks about the Chayiv Inish L'Psumei B'Puria Ad L'Yoda, and he compares it to the mikveh, which is Tevel B'Mei Hadas, the Rambam's Loshen. And as we know, the Rambam speaks about in the end of Hilchas Mikvaos, which is coming up in a few days, Dover Bor V'Golui Sha'atumis V'Atayis Gzer Sakosoven, and they don't. And the person doesn't. It's not based on human understanding. It's not some dirt that you clean off. And he says, and then he goes through all the other things that a person can be metam himself. And he writes there, and there builds mountains on this. That the tefillah mikveh, that the person is doesn't go in the liknish zayin das. He goes out of his das. Mevatel daitay madbila mea das. And we know tefillah is his bittul that's mentioned many times in Chassidus. So that would be the connection. And then the Rebbe goes into the tefillah of l'chasis kol gufei afilusai. So it makes much sense. Why it's not really the gay in the water. The water is getting into it totally. That's all. The sources of the water and where the water is, that's a separate thing. I just want to mention an interesting thing that, if that's the case, it's bittul and it's total. The word lahalos and aliyah and mayim shkogu for behem fits. But I also saw an interesting thing. The Minchas Elazar in the Tshuva writes that Mayim Shekol Gufa Oila Behem, he writes the word Oila Perushai Bottle. Oila means bittul. Kalema Shekol Gufa Yiskasabem. He's totally in it and he's totally bottle. That's the Lashon of Oila. So the Rambam writing Lahalois makes sense, obviously, besides the Lashon HaGemara, but it's telling us that Nekuda of bittul. And then it would fit very much that's why the Torah only required the water. As long as you're kol guf elabam, that's enough. That's bittul of mikveh, the aces of tefillah, the aces of bittul. There's a help that we should have the Amshacha of Purim, which we nisnach gula legula, the gula mitzvah shleima, aguten Shabbos, Zeit is a